Welcome, everyone. It is such a nice pleasure to have all of you joining us today. Seems like my microphone is on a bit of a little bit of a, I want to say like a power boost at the moment. I think I'm going to turn it down just very, very slightly. There we go. Right. So welcome, everyone. It's nice to have all of you guys into this particular session. And really, what we're going to be talking today is something that helps every single agent. You see, as an agent, we want to go out and sell properties. But one of the biggest challenges that we have, especially when we're walking around the neighborhood, is, well, how do we get that person's name and number? Well, we've got tools that we can go ahead and do that. But that number, that telephone number that we can actually make that one phone call. It's like we're in prison. We can have that one phone call to get not out of jail, but into that particular property. And, well, that's always been a challenge. Now, in the past, I've done the good old-fashioned, well, this method works quite well. Park outside the house and hoot until someone comes out screaming and shouting. And then you can say, oh, I do apologize, but I'm a real estate agent, and with all this noise in the neighborhood, would you like to sell your house? But I don't think that method is too favorable. What we'd like to do is do it in a more, I'm going to say, easier way. And in order to do that, well, we need to get all of those names and numbers. So the big question mark that comes into it is, how do we get it? So we've got joining us today, and it's Terence who's going to be joining us today, who's going to go through something which I think is absolutely amazing. This is, I'm going to say, change the way real estate agents have worked, especially with the wonderful act that came in, the Poppy Act. We absolutely love it. It's something where most real estate agents, in fact, have got that tattooed on their left and their right shoulders. But when TVA came into the actual picture, it actually has changed the game for every one of us. Terence, it is an absolute honor to have you on this particular session. I know this is the first session that we've actually done together. So how are you doing, and how are things down in the KZN region?
Good morning, Stuart. Good morning, eXp. Great to be here, and thanks for having me. Funny enough, I'm not in KZN today. I'm in Cape Town, so very hot here.
Still on the coast. There's water around you.
Absolutely loving it. But love KZN even more. KZN is great. Funny enough, we started TVA down in KZN. And yeah, it's been a really long and fruitful journey. It's been 10 years now. It's actually 2025 marks our 10-year anniversary. So we've come quite a long way.
Absolutely. What a magic milestone. Hit double figures. That's something that we all wanting to go through when we look at our business. So let's roll this back, because 11 years ago, this might have just been an idea. Something that was like, well, should we do this? Give us the whole start of TVA. Where did it originate from and evolve to what it is today? Give us that history.
Yeah, sure. So TVA initially was obviously just an idea. I worked for a company called the Blake Group back in 2015, 2014, roundabout. And we obviously had a big data set. If nobody knows Blake Group, now called Procera, they are a debt collection business that obviously housed a lot of data in different pockets. And back then, Howard Blake, the founder of the Blake Group, was married to an estate agent. And she constantly, shared her thoughts around the challenges and essentially the problems around in the real estate sector. And we thought, like at the time, there's so much of data available. Why not come up with a solution that essentially helps solve that problem? So in 2014, we started talking through, some of those challenges and seeing how data could essentially help her in her day-to-day challenges. And essentially, we came up with a handbook. So I literally went around from agency to agency back then, trying to essentially articulate what are the key challenges. And the bottom line was stock. So people battled to find stock. Stock was, one of the key things that agents constantly battled with in terms of, how do I get a new client to essentially sell their property on. And we essentially then built up a propensity model that spoke to that. So we started looking at all the data sets that we had within the group and started to essentially articulate who's likely to sell a property. And we then built up a propensity scorecard that spoke to who's highly likely to sell and who's not so likely to sell. And we ranked that on a scale, and essentially that scale, highly likely to not so likely. And we essentially took that out to market. We partnered up with another agency back then. I don't know if I should mention the name, but it's Green. And and we essentially started to look at their business in its entirety to say, like, how can we look at a certain suburb that you're really battling with on stock? And let's take that data and push it into the contact center to see if we could make contact with these potential sellers. And when we did, it was highly successful. Our accuracy rate was close to 98% in terms of, yes, I'm actually looking to sell my property. And yeah, since then, it's just spiraled out of control. Agencies then obviously heard of us. We then needed to, and at the time, we didn't have any application going. So we didn't have a front-end system. We had, just data and a propensity model around it. And we essentially then took that out to market. We built up a front end where agents could essentially interact with this data. And now back in 2015, there wasn't too many systems out there that spoke to what we did and essentially tried to digitize the real estate industry. So, in developing and understanding the industry a lot more, it became quite apparent that, there's nobody that's actually out there trying to make a difference in estate agents' lives, which excited me so much. And, with my background coming from complete finance, qualifying as an accountant, and then moving into the tech space because I absolutely hated the finance field, it really excited me that I was now able to find an industry that I could really make a difference in. And, just in that short space of time between 2014 and 2015, essentially built up a handbook called The Lifestyle of an Estate Agent and really got to know what the key challenges were around it. And when we took it out to market, I mean, if we had to, thinking back to 2015, we had just a handful of estate agents that used us. Now, fast forward to 2025, we have just over 35,000 estate agents on our platform registered. And just about half of them, paying subscribers. So come a really long way. It's not just at the back of data now. Yes, data was our key, our essentially bread and butter back then. But, Poppy, like you said, came into the mix, and we really needed to then adapt to the regulations. We had various sessions with the information regulator as well, just to try to unpack how we could, as an industry, still help the industry, essentially gain access to a market that a market of people wanting to sell their stock or sell their properties, and how do they make contact from a marketing perspective, etc. So there were a number of challenges that we needed to have ticked off, as we've come. So it's been quite a challenging road, but I think we've overcome a lot of that now. We were also then the first to, essentially build up a Poppy module and attach to a system, again, first in the real estate space. And really, from inception to date, we've built up so many pockets of or areas in the system that essentially helps estate agents, from end to end. And I think that has really caused some stickiness on the platform and allowed us to succeed in what we do best in the data and the software space.
As you're going through that, I actually learned something, and thank you for sharing, because I'm going to say 90% of the agents out there, they see the virtual agent as, call it the telephone directory for South Africa and all our clients. But you actually opened up a curtain that I actually did not know. And I want to thank you for sharing that. Is actually you started with a propensity model. And it's that propensity model that I've actually used personally. And it is powerful. When you say 98%, I'm going to go, yes, I can actually confirm it is that accurate as you're going through. And that actually is taking it from a different approach, because going out and just giving numbers out to agents so that making contact is one thing. But having a number and phoning a person that's just purchased a house or has a very low propensity to sell is actually just a waste of a phone call. So having that model actually originated from that to what it is to now, that is actually amazing. And thank you for sharing that, because as I said, I didn't know that. And it's always something that we always learn in these particular sessions. So now we look at that propensity model, and I want to dig into that a little bit deeper, because you mentioned that from the Blake company, that the what they do to what they are right now, that there is a database, people that obviously owe money, there's credit and things like that. The data today, is it still coming from the same source around that propensity model, or has it now expanded into other avenues to make it even more accurate so that you're hitting it like a 99%?
Yeah, so TV has evolved quite extensively from 2015 to now. In 2020, we went independent. Although there's still some shareholding from a group perspective, TV runs as an independent entity in its own software business, and essentially is partnered with different data suppliers. Post Poppy, we needed to change a lot of the way we interacted with data, different sources, make sure that we can, essentially provide an audit trail in terms of where what source of data came from, and, from where. Since then, we needed to change up our data strategy. So no, the data no longer comes through via the group. It comes through various bureaus as well as other data service providers. We don't store any data anymore as well. So from a Poppy perspective, we don't store any data within our databases other than public domain information, such as deed and property information. The rest of the information comes from authorized and accredited bureaus, and as a one-to-one basis. So when an agent makes a query on an ID number, for instance, we would then try source what sort of information they're looking for and pull that data from a particular database, and so that it's date stamped and there's a full audit around it from a Poppy perspective. So to answer your question, there's various bureaus and various data sources that we gain access to. We obviously clean up the data within our database and within our team as well before it hits at agent level, especially on the property side, because that's something that we are able to house and enrich. But that's as far as it goes from a data perspective.
Perfect. So getting this information, getting this particular data, now going to all these particular sources. And I think a very key point that you actually raised is you're not storing data, which is obviously now conforming into the Poppy Act, which is a huge thing, because we know Poppy Act is something that is extremely serious. And if you actually cross that little red line, well, you know what's going to happen thereafter. So knowing that we've got a provider that is compliant through the particular process. Now, a question that always comes out in almost every single session is the accuracy of the data that you're receiving. Now, you're receiving it from credit bureaus, we understand, and you're doing those cleanups to what you're actually able to store. But that data that does come through, how accurate is it? How often is it updated? I know that you pull it on an individual basis, but how accurate is it from the different providers?
Yeah, it's as accurate as we think it can be. There's from a update perspective, we get data every 2 weeks from a deed match perspective. So every time a house is registered at the deeds office, we will get that update, in the following 2 weeks. So it's pretty up to date on that front. From a KYC perspective, that's from a bureau perspective. The data is essentially sourced at account level. Think about it like, you've opened up an account at one of the retailers, you complete an application form, and that's submitted to a bureau, and the bureau essentially captures that information. It's as accurate as that. There are mistakes. There could be challenges where, an application form's captured incorrectly, a phone number is captured incorrectly, a surname could be typed or misspelled. So there are those challenges which we usually come across. There's obviously deed challenges as well, where a street type's not entered. So you are searching for Park Lane, for instance, and instead of searching for Park Lane, you're searching for Park Street, and it doesn't pick up. So there's those challenges, and that is constantly being refined. The more we made aware of it, the more we can start fixing and correcting on our end. That's from the deed perspective, but from a bureau perspective, we can't really fix up that data if it's sent to us, because we no longer store that.
Absolutely. Now, you have agents that are on your system that are adding in their data. Because they've got their own client base, so they put in their own clients' details, and in your backup or back-end system, you're doing some validations and so forth. Is that data ever used, or does that only belong to the agent?
Oh, no, absolutely not. That data is never used. We cannot verify that data, first of all. So we'd never cross-pollinate any data to any other agent. That data is theirs. And, that would be unethical and illegal, actually, if we had to do that. But to just confirm, we need to be able to prove the exact source of the data. And if we had to reuse any agent data for that matter, we can't prove that source at all. So we'd be unethical and doing business illegally. So absolutely not. We do not cross-pollinate that data at all.
Absolutely. I wanted to make sure, because I know that's a fact, because you can't go and steal the data. That source is so important. That's what everything is where the source of the actual data. And that's why you're actually going through to your particular providers, because you know that it is a validated, creditable source that actually comes through. So when we look at the actual TVA platform and how it integrates with eXp, we've had a really strong relationship in, building up our particular clients. And I know that from a higher level, there was some very deep negotiations that went into place to get those free credits per day, which is something that is kind of, I want to say, as an agent, to go and get 60 free credits per day to get details of a particular client, that is a lot, because most people only phone maybe 30 clients in a particular day. That particular agreement, how, and it's maybe something you may have the answer to, how many agents actually do use the full 60 credits, or is it a very low percentage? Just on the top of your head, maybe it's a fact that you know or don't.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So what we found was, the best agents would essentially use between 20 and 50 credits a month, if that. Where, the whole point of the whole credit system wasn't to now, just go bulk add and validate every single person in your database. It's to essentially build up a relationship with your client. On any given day, if we had to, just contact one person to essentially say, hey, I'm Terence, I'm here to provide you with the service to, sell your property. This is the valuation. This is the story behind it. It's building up that relationship with that individual and with that client. So the system was essentially intended for that relationship building and, using the data to your advantage, and really disrupt in that sort of sense, giving you that secret weapon that we always call it. So yeah, typically we've seen from a data perspective or data usage perspective, a good agent would search probably up to 50 times a month, if that.
Absolutely. So here's a key point is a good agent. A good agent is using the platform to make sure the accuracy of the data, to make contact with those clients that have a very high propensity to sell. And that's the key part of it. So as an agent, why are you not using it? It's there. It's available for you. Just jump into the system and you can go through. But now that's not the only area that you actually support. Not just the propensity, which is a massive, massive help for any particular agent, but also getting those particular contact details so that you can make contact. Within the platform, you've actually expanded into other areas, and yep, maybe going a little bit delicate here, but I want to give you this opportunity. Actually, what else is actually included when an agent gets into your platform, whether it's included or is an add-on? What can they do with your platform to help them in their business?
Yeah, so like I said to you guys, it's, we really tried to disrupt the industry by digitizing. There hasn't, back in 2015, there wasn't too many players out there that helped digitize the platform, digitize the industry. And so what we've done is we tried to really hone in on those key problems. So we've built up various components of the data, and at the onset and like at the forefront of it, the data or the interaction with the data looks so simple. You enter an ID number, you search for it, you validate your information, you enrich your client information. Great. There's a ton that goes on in the background from a verification perspective, from a model and predictive analysis perspective. So all of the data that you see, there's a lot of data science that goes on in the background where we are able to predict, as well as really simplify the way you see things. So, I've spoken to some of the propensity models. We have the propensity to buy as well, where we've literally looked at every single South African in the country, and we thought, let's see, what's their chances of buying a property, and we scored them as well on a very high level scale, and we've given them a persona of highly likely, not so likely, and if they are, what sort of homeowner type are they? Is it a first-time buyer? Is it a property investor? Is it a trader? So we've essentially classified every single homeowner type as well from a data perspective. We've also looked at every suburb in the country, and we've given that a ranking as well. So at the forefront, it's so simple. It's on a scale from 1 to 10, but we've really, learned and understood some of those suburbs where we've looked at the number of people moving in and out of that suburb, the value of the suburb. We've gone to, very detailed lens to understand the type of people that live in that suburb as well, in terms of, do they have tertiary qualifications? Are they directors of companies? What sort of influence do they have in the communities? And we've essentially scored that on a scale from 1 to 10 as well. So that's just, some of the key data aspects of it. And then on the opposite end is the data management platform, which is essentially the CRM or lead management platform, where you are able to manage that data, really make sense of all the data that you have either on your Excel spreadsheet. We've given you the ability to essentially upload that spreadsheet. It creates an automatic dashboard of all the data, what your data is doing, who's highly likely to sell, who's not so likely to sell, who do you want to spend time with. We've integrated that with Google as well. So it all syncs within your mobile devices, your tablet, your phones, your laptops, etc. So at a glance, you know exactly what your data is doing. Then on top of that, we have different an omni-channel sort of mechanism where you can reach out to each of your clients via email, WhatsApp, SMS, etc. And really, start to wrap up this portion of your client, so you can see exactly what your data is doing or what your client's doing, when last you contacted them, when you should make contact. There's automatic triggers for birthdays, for move-in anniversaries. So some of the key things to help you drive to build that relationship. There's various other aspects. I mean, the AI component of the system is essentially, built around our propensity models as well. And that's a big focus for us of late as well, where we're trying to essentially, move and make the agent a lot more smarter with data and with technology. So there's a lot of moving features in the background that we are trying to hone in to essentially, make the agent that much better. There's a ton, Lord, that I could speak to. There's property reports that we've also built in and incorporated, where you could get, a view of owners in the street and owners in a complex, and get to know the property valuations, etc. So a lot of that's also built in within our platform. So it's essentially an all-in-one ecosystem that, as an agent, you wake up today and you switch on your laptop and log on to TVA to start your day. And that's essentially how we intended to sell out the system. And from an analysis perspective, we can see at least 6,000 to 7,000 estate agents around the country log on for that reason. So it's obviously making an impact. We'd love for the eXp agents to essentially, use the tech to their advantage as well, and really drive it the way it's been intended to be driven.
What I love about this is you're staying true to the name of the company, the virtual agent, and really it's your personal assistant, in essence, that's actually helping agents to actually grow in this particular industry. And it's extremely powerful to have all that data in one place, all connected, with additions to things like making sure that you're POPI compliant, making sure that details are validated. You've even taken it to levels where, you got little bits of fraud and all of these type of checks that can actually come into it to make sure that it is that one place, to make sure that you are that high-level professionalized agent. Now, you've shared so much. I'm actually almost afraid to ask the question, what's next? Is there the next version? Is there something new that's coming out? Where is TVA going to in the next year, 3, 5 years? What does that future look like for TVA?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I got my product team here as well. So Kieran Lee Fayers is our head of product. He's joining us on the session today, as well as our new sales manager, Maurice Dippenaar, as well as Ashleen Sewraj, who is our KZN account manager. So they are all on call today. I'm happy for Kieran to jump in, but to kick it off, there's a ton of stuff that we're working on in the background. I want to start off with one main sort of feature that we've recently launched, recently as in January this year. This year has just flown by. And it's called Find an Agent. And when I've spoken to Andrew about it, he went completely mad about it, because there's something that I think, it resonates with your brand as well, in terms of really selling yourselves out there and, putting yourselves out there in terms of, who the best agent is in the areas, etc. So what we've done in the last few months was that we really started to unpack who our audience is and who the agents are. And we really want to help showcase them on our platform, as well as on various search engines. So, if a consumer is looking for an agent to either buy or sell, they essentially search, best estate agent in Camps Bay, and a list of agents will then come up And this is via, Google, and the key problem we're trying to solve here is, again, stock, and just taking us back to 2015 and the key problem, which is still currently a problem. So we thought if we could help agents find stock using, the data that we've had or we have, let's try do that. And so what we really try to unpack during this project is really understand who our agents are. So understanding, what types of properties they sell, what areas they specialize in, the awards that they've won over the years, what values of properties do they generally sell at, and, so some of those key attributes to really make them shine. And we've built up a component of that just to essentially articulate what they are about. And then we've used AI to also help them create a narrative about their personalities, about who they are, and really then showcase that on Google, on our platform as well, on the Find an Agent platform. So essentially, when a consumer, a general person like you and I are looking for a property, and you don't know where to start, you want a good agent. All you're doing is seeing a picture of them or who they work for, but you don't really know who they are. And this essentially gives you that background that essentially sells the agent. So at glance, you can say, okay, this is the agent I want to work with. They've sold properties in Camps Bay to this value. I want that value for my property. They really specialize. I'm sold with either their picture or their narrative about who they are, and I want to make contact. And we've essentially created that product to essentially get the seller or the buyer to make contact directly with the agent. And then on top of that, from an agent perspective, there's a nice dashboard that tells you exactly where the lead came from, who the lead is, whether it's a hot lead, etc. And essentially then make contact with them via one of the channels. So it's a really nice way to showcase and essentially get you guys, new leads and open up different avenues for you as well. So that's live. We've started to gain lots of traction on it. Is on average like 300,000 hits on this platform now in this last few months, which is growing quite nicely. We haven't yet, done what we wanted to do from a marketing perspective as yet. We are still refining the product. We're also exposing it to agents to get reviewed. So, we want you guys to give, the end consumer the best value for money as well. So, push your clients to review you, get a rating. So again, there hasn't been any other system in South Africa yet that essentially sells the agent this way. And has a reviewing sort of system at the back of it as well. So I think this essentially will showcase the agent quite extensively and essentially find you new leads as well. So that's one of the major sort of projects that we're working on. It's live. We're still tweaking, and there's various other AI components that we're introducing to different parts of the platform. We're expanding on our property reports. We trying to create a lot more stickiness on our CRM and really hone in again on the problem that we're trying to solve. I think going forward, there's a ton of work that we want to do, and we obviously looking to expand our forum to really hear what the main challenges are in the industry, and if there's ways that we can help and add that to our roadmap and pipeline.
I actually love that, because if I take this on this particular journey, and I think we've got a microphone. I'm just going to go, there we go. So we look at this particular journey. You started out, the business was to help a single agent, because that's where it all starts out with, to find sellers, to find properties. So you create this propensity to sell model with all the data that you've got. You've then evolved the platform to a point where you've got enough data where you can actually say, hey, wait a minute, let's actually add on to this propensity to buy. So you've got enough data looking across South Africa to try and match what you can actually do. And now you've actually taken it to a point which really goes beyond. It's the propensity to find the right agent for you. And this is now going to the actual consumer. So if I'm actually looking at this ecosystem started with the seller, and in fact, it's actually ending with the seller as well, where they want to sell their house, but they didn't know an agent, just phoned them and said, hey, you want to sell? Of course I want to sell. Now they want to say, well, now I want to find an agent. You've actually done a full circle with that. So your ecosystem is actually becoming this end-to-end. And now all that's going to do, I'm pretty sure of it, it's going to grow, as you mentioned, all these AI models in improving and growing from there, which has been an absolute amazing journey. So for many of you that have been on this particular call, I've only introduced him as Terence. And there was a reason for doing that. Normally, when we go into a session like this, we add all the subtitles of who this particular individual is. And the reason why I didn't do this in the beginning is for many people, they don't know who Terence is. And I wanted to create this level of curiosity. So, Terence, obviously starting right in the beginning, well, Terence, could you call yourself the founder, the CEO, right in the beginning of what obviously came into this at a point that really is right at the top? Is that your actual title, or are you still the dishwashing expert at making sure that everything is clean and working?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. So yes, I am. I am everything that I need to be for both my people and for my clients. So yeah, title doesn't mean too much to me. So, but I am the CEO and the founder or co-founder of the virtual agent. But I love getting in down and dirty as well, and helping the team expand on ideas and concepts. And I think my team can attest to that. So trying to essentially build off and ideate and find new ways and means of doing things better using technology is something that I really feel strongly about. And the key thing for me is wanting to make a change in agents' lives and make it that much better and just help people be better. And that's where I see find my true passion, helping to make a difference in people's lives.
Absolutely. And that's the reason why I brought it right to the end, because the brief conversation that we did have when we met up in Johannesburg, I could see the humbleness inside of you. You're not a person that had the big badge. I'm the CEO, I make the decisions, and that is that. I wanted to take this through a session where people actually went, this Terence guy, he knows a lot about the company. And that's what I wanted to bring up, is the humbleness that actually comes from Terence. And that's what I got, and that's why I wanted to do this session kind of in reverse to actually introduce you into the actual session itself. Now, your team, let's have a look at it. Is it something that's only KZN? It's across the country. Just give us an idea of the layout of where your staff members are as far as a support, sales support, normal support. Where are they all located across the country?
Yeah, so we are national. We have offices around the country. Our head office is based in KZN in Umhlanga. We have presence everywhere. So we use shared workspace throughout the country. They're called Workshop 17. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that. So when a face-to-face session is needed, we use those spaces around the country. Very similar to your brand, which is why I think we get on so well in terms of your agent sort of centric model as well, where a lot of our stuff is virtual. So from a head office perspective, all of our software developers sit there. We run a hybrid model. We try to collaborate a couple of times a week. So they come into the office a few times a week, and then the rest of the time work remotely. Our sales team is national, so there's key presence in Gauteng, and in Cape Town, and in KZN. And if there's presence that's needed around the country, we'll fly up there to meet with them. From a support team perspective, again, they're based in KZN, also hybrid. everyone is well equipped, virtually as well to take queries and calls virtually, so they can do that. We have a team of around 10, 12 people, and growing that as well from a support perspective, that handles day-to-day queries with various agents and agencies. And then another team of key software developers, also around 10 or 12 people, that essentially, focus on different components of the product. But yeah, most of our work is, run through digital platforms, and really hone in on tech to essentially help us work smarter.
Absolutely. So national presence with everyone all over the place. I know that we get training sessions from most of your sales and supports that come in, which is absolutely fabulous. So do look out for these particular TVA, the virtual agent sessions that are hosted by the virtual agent, that helps you through the different parts of the platform so that you can actually understand it a little bit deeper, which is a great way to get to know the actual platform itself. So we're going to open up for a few Q&A, and that's going to come in right now. So I've actually unmuted all of you. So, well, not unmuted, but I've allowed your microphones to be unmuted. You can use a chat box. And I did see that the chat box is rolling, and thank you to Marisa and Ashleen. I see that they have been getting the calluses on the fingertips, tapping away to answer any of those questions. So if you do have any questions, this is your moment that you can ask Terence directly. So if you want, just use that little hand at the bottom of your screen so that we can put you into an orderly fashion. If there's no questions, it means that we're all going for lunch and we can enjoy Friday in a most appropriate way. Some of us in sunshine by the coast, and others are in Johannesburg, where it's a little bit wintry and cold for whatever reason. It's out there. So any questions? It seems like you've answered all those questions that have come through in this particular session itself. Terence, I want to thank you so much for coming into this particular session. Any final words, comments, or thoughts from you before we close up?
Yeah, I think, we obviously value the relationship that we've built over the years with eXp. Love the fact that you guys have such an awesome culture, which is why I think my team gets on with you guys so well. So yeah, just wanting to reiterate, from a value perspective, you value speed, simplicity, and the tools that help you win the mandates. And TVA exists exactly, for that reason. So I think, keep continuing to push and work really smart using the tech that we've built for you guys. And we are here to support you. So anytime you need us, reach out.
Perfect. So to close up on the actual session, the next training session, I see that 9th of December at 11 a.m. Make sure that you are putting that into your calendar so that you can join in with the TVA individuals that will go through the actual training. See how I changed the word from TVA ladies to TVA individuals? So we've actually got them coming on the 9th of December at 11 a.m. Now, to get more information, obviously you can go through to their actual website, thevirtualagent.co.za. If I got that correct, you haven't changed to a .net or .com as yet.
Not yet.
There we go. So in the actual chat box, there's obviously the links, obviously with the pre-recorded. Jump onto their website, thevirtualagent.co.za, to learn more about the information that we've actually spoken about in this particular session, as well as that Find an Agent. I think that's a powerful, powerful tool. It's a give back to all the agents that are in the actual session itself, or in the actual platform itself, to help you to build your career outside. It's just another way to get some leads. Absolutely amazing. Terence, thank you so much for your time coming in, sharing the journey from beginning through to where we are now, and looking forward to the future. So I want to wish you and your team a huge, huge thank you for the support over this particular year, and we're looking forward to doing it again in 2026. So from myself, Stuart, I want to wish you all a fantastic day further. Look out for our future sessions that we're actually having with other providers that can actually help you in your particular business. Cheers for now, guys.